Thanks, and greetings to everyone. There are some people I haven't seen in almost 2 years, so happy to see you, Dawn. It's been a while. So back to the question. I think before we talk about the next 10 years, we need to look at the last 10 years, because they are going to shape how the next 10 years look like. If you look at the Institute from 2012 until 2015, I joined in September 2015. So the Institute was around 3 years old. For those 3 years, we were the Leo Africa Forum. So if you attended some of our events 8 years ago, you're likely to have seen Leo Africa Forum. We're a forum because we're convening events. But in December 2015, we had a weekend-long retreat with AWEL during the Christmas break, and we started discussing what the future should look like, because as a forum we're limited. We could only convene events, so we had a series of economic forum events that many of you attended, but the decisions taken there were not binding, because if I invited someone from the Ministry of Finance, what capacity do I have to hold them to account? But we realized if we were to achieve meaningful change, we'll need to step back a bit, and I think it was also informed by our own experience that initially the organization, when it started, the engagement was with key decision makers, leaders of countries and institutions and things like that. But we needed to have a constituency, because you can only be listened to. Your worth is about as good as your constituency. So in 2015 December, we made the decision to transition into an institute, which meant two things. One, we needed to create a community. Number two, our programming needed to shift to address a specific target group. So it was no longer economic forum events targeting private sector, government, and young people in Uganda, but our focus would be deliberately on young people, and would broaden our scope to at least begin with the region and focus ultimately on the continent. So that's how we have programs like the Young and Emerging Leaders Project, which was conceived in 2016, although we recruited the first class in 2017. Then we had the Economic Forum transition into what you now have as the annual leaders gathering, because now we can authentically say the Leo Africa Institute network is convening. So 99% of the people convening here are either fellows or associates of the Leo Africa Institute, which wasn't the case when we were a forum. Then with YELP, after 3 classes, we said now we have a network, so we reinvest in the network. It's been 2 years now of reunion seminars. Next year we're going to be announcing something new that's happening with the regional seminars. With the public sector in Uganda, which is another critical sector we hadn't interacted with, we have the Huduma program now, 30 fellows over 2 years. Next year we'll have another class, and we'll probably cap it at that, have a network of about 45 public sector champions. But now the question, the future. So now we have the basis. We have the constituency, we have the network, we have the convening power. Next is going to be the Institute emerging as a knowledge organization. So far, I think we've done a great job being a convening organization. We've brought together so many different people, diverse sectors, different countries, especially for the Eastern African region. Our challenge is to broaden that on one hand, so incorporate more of the other regions of Africa, Southern Africa, Western Africa. But number two, invest in growing the organization as a knowledge organization. So the Leo Africa Institute should produce knowledge, because the very things you're talking about, I think over the last 2 days, shaping narratives, creating a positive story about Africa, are a result of knowledge products. Unless you're putting out knowledge into the marketplace out there, then your narrative is as good as dead. So that's where I think the next 10 years will take us. And then maybe in 2032, when we're reflecting, we'll look at the next stage, whether we want to continue as an African organization or want to become a global organization based in Africa.
Thank you, Kwezi.